For the last day of this retreat, we will read from spiritual teachers and poets. Except for a few times, I've always done it. It gives me a break in talking. I'm still talking. But it allows all of us to hear some different words. The readings, except for the poetry from Huangpo, Nisargadatta, Vimalataka, and Krishnamurti, are not all in one piece, particularly Huangpo, but others, there are words, sentences, paragraphs taken out because this is not a presentation of these authors, but to have it fit well into what we've been talking about. Since all the material is copyrighted, this tape is not for sale. We're just taping it for our library. Those of us who come to lots of retreats have heard most of these selections before. People who are here for the first time or a few times may have heard only few of them. But if you have heard them before, it is always an amazing thing to listen freshly. At first, selections from the Zen teaching of Huangpo, who lived about 1,000 years ago in China. Selections written down by his scholar, disciple who was also the governor of the province where Huangpo taught. The Master said to me, "All the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it. For that is using the Buddha to seek for the Buddha, and using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. For this mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Once I put this question to the Master: how many of the 400 or 500 persons gathered here on this mountain have fully understood your reverence's teachings? The Master answered, their number cannot be known. Why? Because this way is through mind awakening. How can it be conveyed in words? Speech only produces some effect when it falls on the uninstructed ears of children. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past. Not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha. Your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding, you will awake to the truth. Your true nature is something never lost to you, even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. It depends on nothing and is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Absolute literally meaning depending on nothing. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. And a selection from I Am That, Dialogues with Nisargadatta, translated, edited by Maurice Friedman. Questioner. Nisargadatta is a contemporary Indian sage who died in the early 80s. He was in his early 80s, died a few years before Krishnamurti, of the Hindu tradition. Questioner. Maharaj, you are sitting in front of me and I am here at your feet. What is the basic difference between us? Nisargadatta. There is no basic difference. Questioner. Still, there must be some real difference. I come to you, you do not come to me. Nisargadatta. Because you imagine differences, you go here and there in search of superior people. Questioner. You too are a superior person. You claim to know the real while I do not. Nisargadatta. Did I ever tell you that you do not know and therefore you are inferior? Let those who invented such distinctions prove them. I do not claim to know what you do not. In fact, I know much less than you do. Questioner. Your words are wise, your behavior noble, your grace all-powerful. Nisargadatta, I know nothing about it all and see no difference between you and me. My life is a succession of events just like yours. Only I am detached and see the passing show as a passing show, while you stick to things and move along with them. Questioner, what made you so dispassionate? Nisargadatta, nothing in particular. It so happened that I trusted my guru. He told me I am nothing but myself, and I believed him. Trusting him, I behaved accordingly and ceased caring for what was not me nor mine. Questioner, why were you so lucky to trust your teacher fully, while our trust is nominal and verbal? Nisargadatta, who can say? It happened so. Things happen without cause and reason, and after all, what does it matter who is who? Your high opinion of me is your opinion only. Any moment you may change it. Why attach importance to opinions, even your own? Questioner, still you're different. Your mind seems to be always quiet and happy, and miracles happen around you. Nisargadatta, I know nothing about miracles, and I wonder whether nature admits exceptions to her laws, unless we agree that everything is a miracle. As to my mind, there is no such thing. There is consciousness in which everything happens. It is quite obvious and within the experience of everybody. You just do not look carefully enough. Look well and see what I see. Questioner, what do you see? Nisargadatta, I see what you too could see, here and now, but for the wrong focus of your attention. You give no attention to yourself. Your mind is all with things, people, and ideas, never with yourself. Bring yourself into focus. Become aware of your own existence. See how you function. Watch the motives and the results of your actions. Study the prison you have built around yourself. By inadvertence, by knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. One thing is certain, the real is not imaginary. It is not a product of the mind. Once you are convinced that you cannot say truthfully about yourself anything except I am, and that nothing that can be pointed at can be yourself, you are no longer intent on verbalizing what you are. All you need to get rid of is the tendency to define yourself. Once this obsession with the body goes, you will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. The only difference between us is that I am aware of my natural state while you are bemused. Just like gold made into ornaments has no advantage over gold dust, except when the mind makes it so, so we are one in being. We differ only in appearances. We discover it by being earnest, by searching, inquiring, questioning daily and hourly, by giving one's life to this discovery. A selection from The Meditative Mind, selection of passages for the study of the teachings of Krishnamurti, published by the KFA in Ojai. It is immensely important to know and to understand the depth and beauty of meditation. Man has always been asking from timeless time whether there is something beyond all thought, beyond all romantic inventions, beyond all time. He's always been asking, is there something beyond all this suffering, beyond all this chaos, beyond wars, beyond the battle between human beings? Is there something that is immovable, sacred, utterly pure, untouched by thought, by any experience? This has been the inquiry of serious people from the Ancient of Days. To find that out, to come upon it, meditation is necessary. Not the repetitive meditation, that is utterly meaningless. There is a creative energy which is truly religious when the mind is free from conflict, from all the travail of thought. To come upon that which has no beginning, no end. That is the real depth of meditation and the beauty of it. That requires freedom from conditioning. There is complete security in compassionate intelligence. Total security. But we want security in ideas, in beliefs, in concepts, in ideals. We hold on to them. They are our security, however false, however irrational. When there is compassion with its supreme intelligence, there is security if one is seeking security. Actually, where there is compassion, where there is that intelligence, there is no question of security. So is there an origin, an original ground from which all things arise? And that original ground is not the word. The word is never the thing. And meditation is to come upon that ground, which is the origin of all things, which is free from all time. This is the way of meditation. And another collection, excerpts from Krishnamurti's talks and writings, compiled for the Krishnamurti Foundation in India. This one is from the Star Bulletin. That was the Theosophical publication, 1932. The individual problem is the world problem. If the individual has found happiness, has created order within himself, then he will create order in the world around him. And in helping others to solve their own individual problems, he will help to solve the world problem. You think that in seeking the liberation of the self there is a suggestion of egotism. You think that to be eternally happy is a selfish realization. You think that to be free from sorrow and strife is a desertion of the world. This is a misconception. Liberation is the very antithesis of the sense of ego, of I-ness. It is the ultimate realization for all people. and a short selection from Being and Becoming by Vimala Thakur, who lives in India. She used to travel, she doesn't travel anymore. But she gives talks in Dalhousie. That's where these, also in Mount Abu. This is where these dialogues took place at Dalhousie during the summer of 1989. We are talking about an alternative way of living, which is a meditative way of living. Acquire knowledge, let it flow through you, let it be utilized in its relevant field without creating a knower. If we look at the roots of all human misery, we will find that misery is built upon our stupidity, or stupefaction, maybe a better word. We do not know how to relate to the social structures and use them without identification, without creating a sense of authority out of them. Structures are not sacred. It is only life that is sacred. Patterns have no sacredness, whether you create them in the name of religion, spirituality, or politics. It is the pattern-free, structure-free, virgin dynamism of life that is sacred, that is divine. Wherever you have touched it with thought, you have manipulated it, you have structured it. It has a utility, but not sanctity. It has a utility, but no authority. Knowledge itself has no power to bind you. It is the creation of the knower that is the obstacle. You have a beautiful, sensitive body, and the sensitivity gets in touch with its respective objects outside, and they bring sensations. Sensations are converted back to electric impulses, and the brain interprets them. It is a marvelous process of what we call experiencing. Contact with the outside world through the senses, which are very delicate, very tender. It is quite hard and arduous work to keep your sensual system pure, healthy, supple, and elastic. Let the experiences flow through the sensual system. Nothing wrong in a sensual sexual experience, but you create an experiencer and you get stuck in the experience and its likes and dislikes, its value structures, preferences, its prejudices. If the sensual contact with objects is allowed to flow through you without creating an experiencer, then the limited human-made world cannot corrupt you. As the oneness of life manifesting itself into manyness does not get corrupted, does not lose its vitality, does not get mutilated. In the same way you acquire knowledge and you appear as an individual playing the role of a father, a mother, a brother, a child, you are one appearing as many. There is no identification with the fatherness, sonness, daughterness, sisterness, and you don't tie so many knots inside, but play the roles sanely, completely, with the magnificence of an inner equipoise. Then you're appearing as many, functioning as many. You're acquiring the knowledge of structures, shall not corrupt you. The word meditation has been identified with psychophysical exercises, concentrations, methods, techniques, kundalini, shakti paths. The word has been abused in such a callous way. No authority and no effort. Freedom from authority and freedom from the struggle of efforts. Once you know that these man-made enclosures are only to be lived in, then the sense of comparing yourself with others, he has a palace and I have a hut, he has millions and I only have hundreds, the sense of comparison and the ambition for competition disappears. Your economic life becomes simple. No vanity, no pride about your scholarship, erudition, and your social life becomes simple. You do not move around with a begging bowl for sympathy, acceptance, prestige, acknowledgement. Can you see with me that effortlessness is the content of silence? Silence is not only sitting still, it is a way of living. Meditation has no repetition at all. It is moment to moment. In the moment of relating, you are living. In the moment of aloneness, you are dying. It is living and dying, like inhaling and exhaling. To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody or being something. Is not that the content of death and dying? To be alone is to die to the sense of being somebody. Sinner, saint, holy, knowledgeable, respected, rich, poor. To be alone is to die to being something according to the definition of society, according to the value structure of religions. Physically isolating yourself may not lead you to the aloneness. It may or it may not. That is what we're afraid of, dying to the sense of being somebody. Dying to all the images that you have built up about yourself as being alone. The way we are tackling the theme may be unusual, unheard of to many. It is a non-conventional way, a non-traditional approach. But I'm really grateful that life brings you and me together. Now a bit of poetry. The first one from One Robe, One Bowl, Zen Poetry of Ryokan, translated by John Stevens. Ryokan was born in 1758. He was a recluse who lived in the mountains, and often writes of his incredible longing for people. Come visit me, he writes. And yet also the joy of his solitude. An evening dream. Everything must have been an illusion. I cannot explain clearly even one part of what I saw. Yet in the dream, it seemed as if the truth were in front of my eyes. This morning, awake, is it not the same dream? Concealed in a dense forest, my hermitage lies far beyond the village river. 1,000 peaks, 10,000 mountain streams, yet no sign of anyone. A long, cold winter's night. Slowly, a piece of wood burns in the fireplace. Nothing can be heard except the sound of snow striking the window. Who can sympathize with my life? My hut lies near the top of a mountain, and the path leading here is covered with weeds. On the fence, a single gourd. From across the river, the sound of logging. Ill, I lie on the pillow and watch the sun rise. A bird cries in the distance, my only consolation. Drinking sweet sake with the farmers until our eyebrows are white with snow. Late at night, listening to the winter rain, recalling my youth. Was it only a dream? Was I really young once? The hour grows late, but the sound of hail striking the bamboo keeps me from sleep. Another blizzard. The mountains are covered with deep snow. From now on, news from town must wait till spring. Wind and snow, then snow and rain. Tonight awakened by the cry of a wild goose in the dark, endless winter sky. Lying in my freezing hut, unable to sleep. Only the quiet roar of water pouring over a cliff. I lie down near the hearth and stretch out my feet to the fire. But still the cold pierces my belly. No begging in the town again today. The snow falls and falls. The freezing morning rain has let up. What should I do? Fetch water? Chop firewood? Gather wintergreens? In the shadow of the mountains, the firewood burns, brightening my cold little grass hut. Winter will soon be over. Please, please come visit my grass hut. My heart beats faster and faster, and I cannot sleep. Tomorrow will be the first day of spring. Lying on my grass pillow, dreaming about this dream world again. Lonely, fitful sleep. As I watch the children happily playing, without realizing it, my eyes fill with tears. Thinking about the people in this floating world far into the night, my sleeve is wet with tears. A thief has stolen my cushion and mat. Why did he break into my hermitage? The door is never locked. The night is ending, and I sit alone by the window. A sparse rain falls gently against the bamboo grove. The thief left it behind. The moon at the window. This is not a wintry one. This is from Mary Oliver's White Pine, but it fits so lovely here into our non-wintry time. It's called Work. How beautiful this morning was Pasture Pond. It had laid in the dark all night, catching the rain on its broad back. All day I work with the linen of words and the pins of punctuation. All day I hang out over a desk, grinding my teeth, staring. Then I sleep. Then I come out of the house even before the sun is up and walk back through the pine woods to Pasture Pond. December. Then the deer stepped from the woods. It walked from the shadows under the trees into a clear space. Antlers sprang from its brow, each with 5 or 6 tines. From the antlers, from each tine, green leaves were growing as if from the branches of a tree. The deer stood without moving, brutish and graceful as deer alive in the daylight, except that its heavy, elaborate head was carrying, upon the usual curvatures of horn, these branches, this fountain of leaves. Then it turned and vanished, in shyness, perhaps. Or simply because we get no more than such dreamy chances to look upon the real world. The great door opens a crack. A hint of the truth is given. So bright it is almost a death, a joy we can't bear. And then it is gone. And a few poems from new and selected poems by Mary Oliver, who is a contemporary American poet. White owl flies into and out of the field. Coming down out of the freezing sky with its depths of light, like an angel or a Buddha with wings, it was beautiful and accurate, striking the snow and whatever was there with a force that left the imprint of the tips of its wings, 5 feet apart, and the grabbing thrust of its feet, and the indentation of what had been running through the white valleys of the snow. And then it rose gracefully and flew back to the frozen marshes to lurk there like a little lighthouse in the blue shadows. So I thought, maybe death isn't darkness after all, but so much light wrapping itself around us, as soft as feathers, that we're instantly wary of looking and shut our eyes, not without amazement, and let ourselves be carried as through the translucence of mica to the river, that is without the least dapple or shadow, that is nothing but light, scalding aortal light, in which we're washed and washed out of our bones. Sunrise. You can die for it, an idea or the world. People have done so brilliantly, letting their small bodies be bound to the stake, creating an unforgettable fury of light. But this morning, climbing the familiar hills in the familiar fabric of dawn, I thought of China and India and Europe, and I thought how the sun blazes for everyone just so joyfully as it rises under the lashes of my own eyes. And I thought, I am so many. What is my name? What is the name of the deep breath I would take over and over for all of us? Call it whatever you want. It is happiness. It is another one of the ways to enter fire. And this one, the sun. Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun, every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world, like a red flower streaming upward on its heavenly oils. Say, on a morning in early summer, at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere, in any language, a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out, as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? We will end here for today.